It is Alabama's Morning News. I'm JT. We see more distribution of the vaccine, which is a good thing. But what about requiring people to get the vaccine or paying people to get the vaccine? Joining us now from the law firm of Crain Brogdon and Rogers, Quentin Brogdon is here. Quentin, good morning. Thanks for being with me.
Good morning, JT. I hope all is well in your neck of the hoods in Alabama.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. So, you're in a, what type of law do you guys do at your firm? Personal injury?
Personal injury trial law.
Okay. Are we entering into potential of problems here when it comes to this vaccine where, first of all, some employers or some organizations may require, for instance, airlines or, companies that have mass amounts of people around each other all the time. And then on top of that, some companies offering to pay their employees to get vaccinated. Let's start with, first of all, companies requiring. Can they do that?
Probably companies can require their employees to be vaccinated, particularly if the employees have high-risk jobs, if they work in a hospital or nursing home workers, things like that. And your listeners may not want to hear it, and some don't agree with it, but probably even if they aren't in high-risk jobs, companies can require it. The EEOC in December, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, federal agency, said that a vaccination is not a prohibited medical exam. If it's considered to be a medical exam, you can only give those to your employees in very limited circumstances. But the EEOC says a vaccination is not that. So probably employers can require it, but it's best if they can incentivize their employees. Amazon is paying, I think, $40 per dose, so up to $80. So it's always better to incentivize if you can do that.
All right, well, let's talk about influenza vaccines, for instance. Not all businesses require that. We know people die from the flu every year. What's different about this?
Well, under the OSHA regulations, employers have a general duty to provide a safe workplace. And during this pandemic, because of the nature of how contagious this is and how deadly it is, it's much more deadly than regular influenza, for instance. Employers are being given a lot more leeway by the federal government and state governments to infringe. Basically, it's an infringement on the employee's rights, but it's a balancing test. And so it's just the nature of the harm and the risk is greater. So that's why. That's the short answer.
Yeah, and private companies, I guess, have the right to set up standards for their business and their employees, and condition of employment is X, Y, and Z. You can choose to go work somewhere else. But do you think there will be legal challenges for people that are already employed where they get an email from the boss that says, hey, look, it's time to get your vaccine. We're going to pay you $80, but you got to do it. Legal battle here?
Well, sure. Employers don't have unlimited power in this area. Under a federal law called Title VII, they have to make reasonable accommodations for employees' sincerely held religious beliefs. And then under the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, if an employee has a disability or medical condition that would make them more susceptible to the adverse side effects, again, employers have to make reasonable accommodations if possible. That might involve letting an employee work from home, for example, if that can be done. And then as far as the incentives, they can be considered to be coercive or discriminative and violate the laws if they're more than just what the EEOC calls de minimis. So, $80 is probably going to be de minimis nowadays. It's hard to believe that $80 would be considered de minimis, but you can't give a gym membership out or airline tickets, because then if you've got an employee who has a disability and can't get it, then they're being arguably at least discriminated against in favor of the employee who can get the vaccine.
Well, let's talk about the flip side of this. For instance, an employee that works for an organization where they're around the public a lot, but yet the government or the guidelines of that particular state says, well, you don't qualify. For instance, employees at the big box stores that constantly see people coming through those doors, and that's their job, to be around massive amounts of people, but they're also not considered front line, so they have to meet the requirements, let's say, of the age. Do you anticipate seeing employees filing suit against municipalities to say, look, or employers to make the vaccine a little bit more available, because that's their job to be out there, but yet not considered front line?
I guess in theory that could occur, JT, but the reality is there's a shortage of doses. Not everybody who wants it can get it right now. A lot of people are saying they don't want it. With any kind of medicine, even with aspirin, there are going to be adverse side effects. We say aspirin's available at every drugstore without a prescription, even though we know to a certainty a certain number of people are going to die each year from adverse reactions to aspirin. So it's a balancing test again. The health benefits of the vaccine outweigh it, and the governments, including the local municipalities, are having to make decisions on who gets it first. Right. So getting into a courtroom and challenging that, I don't see that going very far because we're all kind of in this boat together. There isn't enough vaccine quick enough for everybody.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't need $80 to get that vaccine. I'll do it for a double cheeseburger. So bring it on. All right. Well, I appreciate you, Quentin. Thank you so much. Some good points on this.